This week we'll be taking a look at some atom-breaking particles, and plus, is Death Star technology closer than we think? All that and more on today's episode of The Bio Show. This is The Bio Show from Greenwood Lab School in Springfield, Missouri. It's your host, David Cox. Hey guys, and welcome to the show, where today we're getting, well, a little explosive. Apparently, radiation can turn you into Superman or make you a mutant zombie from Minecraft. Either way, it's been popularized through books, movies, music, TV, and a lot of other literary devices. Now, it's even the title of a song that welcomes you to the new age. To the new age. Welcome to the new age. Well, before we get to that, let's get started with the news. Last year, the UN adopted a nuclear weapons ban treaty on July 7th, marking the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Tough luck, Japan. You guys really got pounded in World War II. And honestly, I bet you guys did not see that coming. Well, okay, besides that, a majority of your civilians died due to the atomic bomb, and a lot from radiation poisoning. Let's take a look at the foundation of light through the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum is a scale that measures the intensity of light particle frequencies. We as humans can only see wavelengths from about 400 to 700 nanometers. This is only a fraction of the light or energy that travels through the air at one time. What are the other light particles that we can't see? Well, there's a long list, but it's mainly comprised of radio waves, microwaves, infrared light, ultraviolet rays, X-rays, and lastly, gamma rays. Sound scary? Just wait. Now today we'll be focusing on gamma rays, and since these rays have the highest frequency, they contain enough energy to ionize atoms. Let's break it down. Ionizing atoms is an extremely fast process. There are many different types of rays that are considered to be radioactive, such as murons, mesons, positrons, and even cosmic rays you see out in outer space. It begins with a chemical reaction, one that gives off enough energy that slices through almost any particle, separating electrons from their atom, therefore ionizing them. That's pretty scary, but wait, it gets better. It's basically taking a piece of highly charged matter and launching it at an insane speed. So that was a good example too. So now that we understand how ionizing atoms work and what it does to galaxies, we can now analyze the effects of radiation on animals and plants. Mr. Cox, where are you going to find a Death Star? Well, Dave, we don't need a space station to study these deadly effects. In truth, Chernobyl was a great example. Chernobyl was a nuclear power plant located on the outskirts of Ukraine. On the night of April 25th, one of their light-water graphite moderator reactors exploded due to a light power outage from routine safety checks. One of the valves was open and the water flooded the core, creating steam, which led to a pressure buildup and then resulted in the initial explosion, which consequently blew a massive cloud of radioactive fumes across the landscape. Not only did the cloud contain radioactive material, but the blast ejected pieces of radioactive graphite that still continue to emit highly volatile energy particles. Now it's time for the mystery document. Rules are simple. I read the passage, then guess the author. If I guess incorrectly, I get shocked. We arrived there at 10 or 15 minutes to 2 in the morning. We saw graphite scattered about. Misha asked, "Is that graphite?" I kicked it away, but one of the fighters on the other truck picked it up. "It's hot," he said. These pieces of graphite were of different sizes, some big, some small enough to pick them up. We didn't know much about radiation. Even those who worked there had no idea. Leonid Telyaknikov? Yes, he was a firefighter who was awarded a medal for his bravery. You see, even the firefighters were unaware of how dangerous the effects of radiation posed to their bodies. Unfortunately, a majority of these men died from acute radiation poisoning. Basically, too many ballistic energy particles alter the structure of their cells to the point where the main bodily systems begin to fail. Sounds kind of painful. Now that we understand what radiation does to a human, how does it affect plants and animals? First, we need to take a look at the structure and function of a plant. Plants actually need low-level radiation such as sunlight to thrive, but too much ultraviolet rays can be tremendously harmful. The stomata is a hole-type opening in a plant that regulates the supply of water to the rest of the plant. If there's too much evaporation due to intense radiation, the stomata may close to reserve water. If the stomata is unable to open for a long period of time, the growth of the plant is stunned, and prolonged exposure to radiation can completely damage the stomata and ultimately destroying the plant. So just the right amount of radiation is necessary for a plant to grow, but too much radiation can kill the plant. Seeing a pattern? Sounds to me like Goldilocks likes her radiation just right. What about various animals? Did they die too? Great point, Dave. Animals have slightly different reactions than plants, yet are similar to humans. It's difficult to test the effects of highly toxic rays on every species. I mean, if you sent like a squadron of stormtroopers to Alderaan, they might find data, or what's left of it. But the real idea is it's just impossible to test for all of these animal species. But what data has been collected is quite alarming. After the Chernobyl incident, the Soviets detected high levels of cesium-137 and iodine-131 accumulated in herds of reindeer as reported in Sweden and Norway. Scientists later noted that many rodents died shortly after the blast. They later deduced that the smaller the animal, such as a bug, the less of a chance they had of being bombarded by these rays. That's a pretty simple concept. The more mass an object has, the probability of an energy particle hitting it would be increased. Yet scientists have found that there are different frequencies of radiation that penetrate certain objects at certain depths. To understand why an animal dies versus why they have a genetic mutation is essential. Alpha, beta, and gamma. These are the three main categories of radiation. All three have different periods of time before they stabilize. Some are longer and some are shorter. Elements on the periodic table are categorized by metals and nonmetals. But looking at the table closer reveals that further down the list we go, the more unstable an element becomes. Now this is a little off the beaten path, but simplifying radiation just won't cut it. I mean, if you simplify an atom, then you create a nuclear explosion called fusion, and we don't want that, do we? So looking at the chart, we notice that helium is very stable. It has 2 electrons and 2 neutrons. But an element like uranium-238 with 92 electrons and 146 neutrons, now that's a pretty big difference. Over time, uranium-238 will decay into thorium-234, a much more stable element, thus releasing an alpha particle, which leads us back to alpha decay. Remember those 3 categories of radiation, alpha, beta, and gamma? Well, these 3 particles penetrate through different objects, some being stopped by certain barriers. An alpha particle will be stopped by a piece of paper and has a short period of time before it stabilizes. Beta particles have a longer time to stabilize and will penetrate through paper, but will be stopped by aluminum. Gamma particles, however, take eons to stabilize, and lead is the only element that will stop these deadly particles. No wonder Superman is so scared of kryptonite. Because these particles penetrate objects at different depths, it helps us to understand that the reindeer in Sweden and Norway received gamma rays that embedded themselves into the metabolic cycle. Yet the rodents were unable to combat the ratio of unstable elements in their natural organs and tissue, thus resulting in them dying. In the US, Europe, and India, scientists have not only studied the effects of radiation on land-dwelling creatures, but also those who dwell in aquatic environments. They discovered that even small amounts of beta radiation cause genetic damage. Fish, crabs, shrimp, crustaceans, and seaweed, just to name a few, all had been found to contain radioisotopes such as radon, krypton, and calcium embedded inside their bone. Radioactive waste is widely disposed into the ocean where these organisms absorb them. Most radioactive waste is compacted and secure and sure to not explode, but traces of escaping particles are found in these aquatic environments. Mankind has harnessed the power of radioactivity, but absorbing those same particles is costly to humans and other life forms. We as humans have a duty to maintain and keep nuclear plants safe, which in turn ensures that chemical explosions such as Chernobyl don't happen again. And besides, it's nothing really to be scared of. The majority of the time, nuclear explosions don't just happen as frequently on Earth than in outer space. And most humans experience natural radiation in the form of sunlight. Me, well, I might have experienced a little bit too much radiation because I have a darker skin color, but the main idea is that radioactive isotopes are just another source of energy, which can be dangerous if used properly, but when that does happen due to an explosion or naturally, it can cause a change in the growth and development and reproduction of those animals as we've seen in Sweden and Norway. And lastly, the independence in nature involves many different aspects of the unique environments and diverse populations combining to form one large ecosystem on a planet we call Earth. That's all for today. Hope you had a stimulating experience, and I'll see you next time on The Bio Show. So...
It's Timmy.
It's not Timmy! It's not Timmy, it's Dave! Okay.
Tornado, I see you coming around. Don't let go, you know I'm holding you down. People shouldn't change like the weatherman. People shouldn't change if they innocent. People act strange when it's getting hard to breathe. So let me be your oxygen. Please don't go, I will stay. When everyone is leaving and you're feeling strange, see them go, hear them say, trying to breathe but you're feeling strange. Oh, feel like you're living but you might be